What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Masters in the Marketplace. Actually, this is the very first episode. It's kind of episode 00 because we're actually just starting this new season. This is season 2. Season 1 started up with Tim's story, and we did that episode in 2020, not knowing that the whole world was going to fall apart. But I'm Torrian Scott, and this is
Nova Scott.
And we're just going to talk about transition a little bit. Today is, one of those talks where we just kind of, having a conversation, but also maybe you get a chance to listen in because, we're going to be talking about transition and how to transition out of specific leadership, ministry, business. Because one of the things that I've learned over the years is that we do a lot when it comes down to teaching people how to do certain things like in ministry, but we don't really teach people how to transition well, And so for those of you who know our story, or maybe you don't know our story, we actually landed here in Southern California in 2011 with our oldest son, a suitcase, a stroller, and a car seat. And we didn't even know that we were pregnant. Well, you were pregnant, not me. You were pregnant with our second child. And anyways, it was a lot going on during that time. And we had transitioned out of a church that we were both on staff at, the church that I grew up at in Houston, Texas. And man, it was a lot of moving parts in transition. I think that was one of our very first lessons about transition. And so today, I hope that you're listening because we're going to be talking about how to transition well, like how to transition the right way. And from what we've learned is that every transition, there's always going to be some turbulence, right? There's always going to be some level of problem, issue, pain. There's going to be some level of disagreement. There's going to be some level of hurt feelings. And I don't think you can avoid that.
No.
Right.
It comes with the package deal.
It comes with the territory.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is that so many people want things to go smoothly. I remember, that first transitioning from Houston here to California. I think that, my heart was broken in the fact of I wanted things to go in a specific type of way. Like I wanted things to happen in a certain way. I wanted, a big applause. I wanted the big, fanfare of, here's this young man who grew up here and, now he's going on to bigger things. I mean, my imagination is so big, right? And so I had this desire to experience that, but, that's not the way that a lot of life goes. And that's not the way that went. It wasn't until years later that I really came to grips with, okay, that's why certain things happen. But, in transition, tell me a little bit about, how you were feeling in the process of transition coming from Houston to California. And then we'll dive into like our transition from pastoral ministry into marketplace ministry and itinerant ministry. So let's talk a little. How do you feel like whenever transition happens? Let's talk about, because you're on this crazy run with me, right? You're just on this crazy life with me right now. Like, what are some of the things that you were feeling as we were transitioning in different places and different times?
Well, I mean, there's always that excitement. That's the one thing. And then I feel like you go through stages of like grief, basically, because it comes with a lot of stuff, from misunderstandings to shifting in relationships, breaking of relationships. That's what it those are some of the things that I could say about it, was that we encountered a lot of those different things. And so with it comes the grief because things change. And then also there is this, in transition where, or the time of transition where you feel unsettled because you're being plucked out of what you're comfortable in, what you knew to be truth, and like, this is what I'm going to be doing, or this is what I am doing, to now something totally different. Like, well, we're not doing that anymore. To being uprooted and being plucked out does not feel good. To being pushed out does not feel good, until you settle. And so there's an unsettling feeling, I could say. at times over the past few years. And then the change in relationships, because these are people that you walk with, and it's just like with relationships in general. You believe that specific people, you're going to take them into till you're 100 years old or wherever, you think it's going to be like long lasting until the season change, because some people come with the places. Right. There are certain people that's attached to the process for that time and season, and then after a while God shifts and moves those people because they're not meant to transition with you.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because there's certain people for specific positions too, that come with a position. I remember, do you remember, what was it? Is it Black Panther? It was Black Panther. Remember when Killmonger took the actual throne, and one of the ladies, one of the princesses, I forgot what her name is, so I apologize. I don't know the actual, forgot, but
the warrior,
she was
general. I think she was a general.
Yeah, she was one of the generals, and one of the princesses. She was like, come on, now that Killmonger is like the Black Panther or the king, like, come on with us. And she was like, no, like, I'm loyal to the position, and you got to understand that sometimes in transition, the reason why relationships break is because there are certain relationships that are only attached to the position. Like, I think that we found that out, and it's just like, okay, that's crazy that we spent time with these people. We like shared birthdays, we shared special holidays, we shared all of these wonderful things. Like, we were vulnerable with them and all those different things. And like, when it's time to transition, like, that relationship, like, just broke off. Like, wow. Like, and you would feel like, okay, well, what did I do? And it's just like, well, it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the position. And unfortunately, some relationships don't translate into the next, position or wherever you are, or wherever you're going, in life. And that's okay. That's what we found out, is that it's truly okay for those relationships to be there. You just have to move on.
And then you have to realize everybody's on their own journey as well. So you don't take it personal, just like how you're shifting and you're doing, or we're all doing what God has called us to do. Other people are on their journey too, which may require them to do a U-turn, or which may require them to get off of the exit on this specific exit on the highway. So they're not able to follow or to, continue to connect, because their energy and time is required in a new space with new people, or the same people that you had to leave behind. So
absolutely. And so that's probably one of the biggest parts of transition. So let's talk a little bit about transitioning out of pastoral ministry into marketplace ministry. So for many of you who are watching, maybe there's brand new people that are watching, I want to say thank you very much for coming on and watching. Ministry and marketplace have been simultaneously in my heart for the longest time.
Not just your heart, and your actions, your activities. This is what you've been doing for the past,
20 plus years, basically. I mean, even in college, whenever we were in college at ORU, like, I was in ministry, but I also had like a business on the side. I was washing cars, and you were my window girl, man.
I made them windows shine and sparkle.
And I hate windows. I hate doing windows whenever we were detailing cars. But I've been in ministry and marketplace for the greater part of as long as I can remember, and it felt like there was a tug of war many times, because I felt like if I wanted to do great things for God, okay, now I should just leave business alone and just commit myself 100% to ministry, or if I wanted to do great things in the marketplace, I needed to just leave God in the four walls of the church and just kind of do what I got to do, everything that I learned in real time and in business school and all of those different things. Like, that's what I got to focus in on in the marketplace. It wasn't until probably, 2013 that I really got to understand that you could actually do both, that it wasn't like either or, it was both and. And had this wonderful position, being the director of business development and operations, got a chance to meet Dale Bronner, Bishop Dale Bronner, and I asked him that question. I was like, how do you do it? Because like he has businesses on the side, he has this big church, he also has like all this different stuff that he's got going on, and it just became this cry in my heart, like, can you do both? And he was like, yes, you can do both. And so for years upon years, we did both. And but what I came to find out in 2017, whenever we launched Master Advisory Group, and that's where we do executive coaching and leadership development, and I go into corporations and companies and everything, and I really started to get into governmental like leadership development and executive coaching. It wasn't until then that I recognized, whoa, the stuff that I am doing in the church and in ministry, as far as counsel, listening, active listening, helping people get to an actual end goal or result that they can actually really dive into, I was like, this is ministry. It's still ministry. It's still me listening. Now, we may not use God or Jesus, or, it may not point to the Bible or whatever the case is, but there are kingdom principles and processes that I take people through. And I recognize, wow, like the kingdom is at work even in the marketplace. Yeah. And so, we birthed Masters in the Marketplace, years ago. And at first it was just like this, I wanted to teach people how to do business God's way, because I was like, I got tired of seeing so many entrepreneurs and so many leaders like have these wonderful opportunities, these wonderful ideas, these inventions and these strategies and concepts and all of those different things. And then I meet them and they're like, yeah, I've had this idea for like 15 years. And I'm like, and you haven't done anything with it? Like you haven't started anything? And people are like, I just don't know how to start a business. And so that's where Masters in the Marketplace kind of got its, its umph or its genesis, if you will, in helping people to start business and do business God's way. But over the years, it's morphed into really helping people to truly make an impact in the marketplace, in leadership and development. And so anyways, going back to our conversation that we're having today, which is, our jump from pastoral ministry into marketplace ministry. So ministry and business have always been in both of our hearts. And, in 2016, we started a church called Harvest International Church in Brea, California. And, man, those are some good times. Yeah. Those are some good times. I mean, starting the church, I remember whenever we were jumping off of staff at the church that we were serving at, and, what were some of the things that were going on through your head? Here we are again in another transition.
What transition are you talking about?
From jumping from staff to actually starting our church 2016.
What was, honestly, I felt like it was time to leave that other place, like where we were. And just, I'm a big believer in like just follow where God is leading you, because that's where blessings are. That's where fulfillment is, So, yeah, I was ready,
So let me ask you this question. How did you know that it was time?
Well, because right before you shift and you transition, the Lord starts to do certain things in your heart. He starts to, there's a detachment that comes. There's a dissatisfaction that comes, and things that you had the grace to do before just doesn't work. I remember because I helped to lead worship there. I was on the worship team at the time at that church. And for some reason, around the time where it was our time to leave, I started getting hoarse. There was issues with my voice where I couldn't sing. Like I wasn't leading songs anymore, and it's almost like the Lord was disturbing the nest. Like, all right, and so the things that you'd attach yourself to and say, "Oh, I'm here because of this," when you can't really do that, or there's a and I'm not saying every difficult thing means like anytime a difficulty shows up means it's time to go.
Right.
I'm saying, like, when God starts shutting things down, favorable things start shifting, that's when
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was ready. I mean, mostly part of me was like, okay, I think we should be diving into business at the time. I remember we were
Right.
talking about it, and you're like,
Right.
what do you think? I said, I think we should dive into business.
Mm-hmm.
But we started this beautiful church, Harvest
Yes.
International Church, and it was
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
Gained some family,
Yes.
over the years, and yeah, so
Yeah.
that's what I would say.
I like what you're talking about because you're saying, okay, there are certain things that were going on inside of you and also inside of me that said, okay, it's time. But it wasn't just like okay, I'm distracted or not distracted. I'm, what you say? You said disconnected.
Yeah.
Like I'm disconnected. There's a disillusionment. There's all these different things. I love how you put it, but there are certain things. There's certain signals, like the grace is lifted. So you gotta go to God and ask, what is this? Because if you just make an impulse act, you may actually forfeit destiny.
Yeah.
You may actually forfeit the call, and you don't want to do that. So we always, in every transition, we always seek God first for an absorbent amount of time.
Yeah.
I'm talking about fasting and praying, and I'm not talking about, I'm just gonna do a little social media fast, or I'm not just gonna play Candy Crush. I'm talking about like whole straight up water fast, like old school fast. Not, I'm gonna say old school fast, that's what a real fast is, fasting from food. But just seeking the Lord and saying, God, make it so crystal clear that I cannot miss it.
Yeah.
Make this something, help me to understand what you're doing, because my mind and my heart are not comprehending like what's actually going on. This is a place that I love. This is a place that I'm serving. This is a place that I've placed my heart. This is a place where I want to grow. I want to see my kids grow. I want to see great things happen here. Like I'm invested in this place, but now the grace is lifted.
Yeah.
And so, and that I could say that would be even some of the things that we were experiencing when we were making the transition from pastoral ministry, Harvest International Church, to now, coming out into the marketplace full blown, and that be ministry, for us, rather than having like a weekly gathering where people come in every single week and I'm responsible for teaching them the ministry, teaching them the word of God, and, counseling and all those different things, and feeding and helping people grow in that particular regard. So last year, let's just kind of fast forward the thing, because we don't want this to be so long. But probably over the last 2 years specifically, I've been feeling that. I had been feeling like this grace is lifted. I remember back in 2022, I was at a mastermind with one of our friends, and he invited another guy and two other guys. And so we were in this mastermind in LA, and it was funny because I'm like, I've never been in that situation where it's like, okay, you have to like leave your phones outside, like you're just locked in, like you can't talk to anybody, whatever cases. But they're creating an environment for authenticity, and an environment for trust. So anyways, so it's only like us 5 guys in this particular room, and we're just talking about our visions, and we're talking about what God has been doing in our lives and everything. And so when it got around to me, I began to talk about just kind of like this struggle that I began to feel. This is post pandemic, so everybody's kind of like feeling like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because in 2020, the whole church was together, right? Like, we had so many people like, oh, we got to be one church, and we did stuff together, and like, let's let this be the way that we operate in ministry. And then 2021 came, and everybody just went into their own silos again, right?
Yeah.
And so, and everybody just tried to figure out how to survive, even us. I mean, we're trying to figure out how to survive this. We're not a big church by any means. We're a family church, no more than, if on a good Sunday, I'm talking about everything that has breath, even the pregnant ladies, maybe 40 people, right? So, but, I had been feeling this like kind of way, like I'm feeling like there's going to be a shift, And so I was sharing that with this group of guys, and great men of God. And this one guy, I never met him before. And he said, Doc, yeah. He said, Doc, can I just say something? I was like, yeah. He said, man, it's like the brook is dried up. And I was just like, when he said that, I kind of knew what he was saying. I was like, okay. But I was like, man, I don't even know this dude. You know what I mean? Like, get up off me. Like, but it wasn't until probably 2024 where where I'm meeting with one of my friends, Bishop McDaniel, and we're having lunch in Anaheim, and we're talking, and he's asking me, hey, how's church going and everything, and I begin to share with him the same like dissatisfaction like on the inside of me. Like, it wasn't like, had nothing to do with people, had nothing to do with our church
the people
family.
are amazing.
The people are amazing. Like, had nothing to do with that. Had nothing to do with like nothing. It just was me personally. Like, there was no infighting like you hear about in certain churches. There wasn't like, deacons rising up, coming against the pastor, there wasn't anybody, doing anything crazy or weird. I mean, the pastor was sleeping with the worship leader. You know what I'm saying? Because she was the worship leader. I was the pastor. Anyways, but beyond that, there's nothing, right? Yeah. And so there's no like external reason why I should feel like this, right? There's no external there's nothing that I should feel like this. However, God began just kind of dealing with my heart. And so I was telling him about this, and he was just like, he begins to tell me this story, and he's just like, you remind me right now of Elijah, who was by the brook, and the brook dried up, and I was like, okay, here's the second time I'm hearing this brook dried up type of situation. And so, I lean in and I said, well, I don't know what to do with that. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I hear that, but when you have such a clear, like, voice from God, like feeling like you heard from God, like Plant Harvest International Church in Orange County, and then you're hearing the brook is dried up, like, so what does that mean? You know what I mean? Like, what is that like? And you and I've had our, private conversations where sometimes we're like, I don't know if this is, what we're still supposed to be doing. And, I feel like, God is telling us to move on. And so after that meeting with that gentleman, with Bishop McDaniel, I'm driving back home, and my friend Jimmy Odekoya, he calls me from Nigeria, and, we're talking. And he's like, buddy, I feel you. Like, what's going on? Like, tell me what's the deal. Him and I, he was my best man at my wedding. We were roommates in college. Like, we're covenant brothers. Like, amazing, amazing man of God. And he said, I said, well, this is what's going on. And he said, it's like the brook is dried up. And I was like, come on, right? I said, all right, this is the third time I'm hearing, the second time within the actual day today that I'm hearing the brook is dried up. So he gave language, and this is why it's so important for you to have friends, I believe, like that know you and that pray for you and that are there for you, because they can give language to maybe what you're feeling, and what you're experiencing. Like, you gave language to it as well. But one of the things that he said was, he said, buddy, I know you. And he said, the reality is you're not a quitter. And you walking away in ministry right now, it feels like quitting. He said, but that's not what this is. This is you literally being obedient to what God is saying next for your life. And that was like the breaking point, I believe, and, we had other people that came in our lives over the past year just to kind of confirm what we were feeling, that it was time to go to the next. And, the biggest thing for me, and this is, I can say the same thing for you, is that like our whole desire is to please God. Like, that's it. That's it. Like, I mean, there ain't no, any room for ambition, in it. There's no room for, I mean, we're here in Southern California, not because we wanted to, because neither of us wanted to live in California. At least I didn't, because the ground shakes out here, but we didn't want to live out here, but this is God's doing, right? And so over the past couple of months, we just, once again, saying, okay, God, what do you want us to do? It moved from Brea, and now the church is in our home. We're meeting in our home, and it's a powerful time, wonderful time. But I'm like, God, where there's no vision, the people perish. So what's the vision, for the church? Like, are we a home church now? Like, we're not in Orange County anymore, but we're here. So, and it feels better because like there's not the weight and the responsibility of like a building or whatever, but you still have the weight and the responsibility of moving people forward.
Yeah.
So what were some of the things that were going on in you, during, this time of transition where we're trying to figure it all out?
Well, just make the first thing was to make sure, which is why, we took our time, was to make sure that we weren't making a decision out of fatigue.
Yes. Yes.
Like, oh, I'm tired. So, we weren't making a decision because of money,
Right.
because, there's different reasons why people make decisions, but we wanted to make sure that whatever we do, it was God led, that God was saying go, and that if he said it, that's what we would do. And so those are some of the things I was feeling like, okay, let's sit in it for a while and make sure that it's not any of these, and that it's definitely, okay, the Lord is saying, because for me, I'm a creative type person, and I get bored. Okay.
Right.
I get bored with lots of different things, so I wanted to make sure that this wasn't one of those, oh, I'm bored,
Right.
Let's move on to the next,
Right.
which, yeah. So, but as God speaks, like you're saying, one of the biggest things that we desire is to please God, not people, because if that was the case, we would still be in Texas.
Yeah.
We'd still be in all these different places, had it not been a word from God. So, yeah.
So, we've had to make all of those sacrifices, but making sure that this is what God wants. Now, here's the thing. Most people, want, whenever God speaks, for it to be a smooth road, right? A smooth road to the destination. And it's not that many times. It really isn't. There's certain things that you have to learn. There's certain things you have to grow through. There's certain things you have to go through. And some people say, well, it's unnecessary for you to go. There's this one particular person like, you didn't have to go through that. I said, well, I believe I did, because this is the direction that God led me. Any other direction would have been man-made, and only the things that, you do for God will last, so, sometimes, Samuel tells Saul, hey, it's better to obey than to sacrifice. But what I've learned is that obedience requires sacrifice. Like, it requires it. You got to sacrifice something. Like, sometimes, and many times, it's your comfort. Think about the sacrifice of Jesus, the scourging of his back, the ripping of his flesh, the ripping of his beard. I mean, everything that was comfortable, everything that's predictable, and all those different things got upended, because this is the will of God for his life. And in our particular situation, it was an upending of a lot of comfort, and really proving the heart about what God was doing in our lives and in our midst, So we said, God, okay, Lord, if this is you, like, make it so crystal clear that we can't miss it. That's our biggest prayer. And it was his will, and it became crystal clear that this was the time. And I remember that one time after the 10-day fast, I did a 10-day fast, and it was just a water fast. And I was just seeking God and saying, God, just make it so crystal clear that I can't miss it. And even though I didn't get like this grandiose revelation and vision or whatever the case is, what did come into my spirit and my heart was clarity that it is now time. You remember when I told you?
Yeah.
You're like, that's the clearest I've ever heard you be. In all of these years like that we've been doing this, that's the clearest that I've ever heard you be about where the next step is. And so, and then, of course, it's confirmed. The Bible says that, where two are gathered in where out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, there was a confirming word that came, but it came in this form of like just divine Holy Spirit wisdom. And the word was, the people that are there at Harvest, they're loyal to you. And there's no reason for them to leave, because there's no foolishness going on, right? Like, I mean, it's easy for people to leave things when there's a disagreement, when there's foolishness going on or whatever, that they're loyal to you, that like these are your core people. Like, they love God, but they love the ministry that God is they're getting from you. And so But God is wanting to utilize them somewhere else. And he's wanting to utilize you somewhere else. And when you're not obedient, you don't give them the opportunity to be obedient.
Yeah.
And the wisdom that came up was like, okay, if they decide to leave, if they decide to, be obedient to what God is telling them, they'll leave and rejection will rise up in you because you feel like they left you. And that cut me to the heart, because I was like, okay, am I staying in place because it's comfortable for me as well as for them? Am I staying in place? Am I staying in position because, I don't want to let people down, or I don't want to, hurt people, if you will. And I had to make a decision like, God, if this is you, you're making a way already. So when we started talking to like our covering, and then we talked to our board, and we talked to our core team. I mean, it was an overwhelming response. Like, yes, this is the move. Like, yes, absolutely. This is the move. And it was amazing. There's so much peace. So, in transition, God will, of course, start stirring you up spiritually. That's an opportunity for you to actually seek him further. That's almost like him inviting you even closer into the secret place and saying, okay, get an understanding of where I'm leading you, get clarity on the next steps so that you can move on. And then look for confirmations, right? Look for the confirmations around you. Ask God to send you confirmations so that you can really, truly stand on the word during this transition. And then, lastly, do it.
Do what he says.
Do what he says. Do.
Dive.
I mean, jump. Make the jump. And when you do, you'll find, wow, God, the way that you're writing this story, like I couldn't have written it any other way. Like I couldn't have experienced it any other way. I couldn't have done this at all. Like this is truly the Lord's doing, and it's marvelous in our eyes. And so, so that's where we are. You know what I mean? We've made the jump. And, a few weeks ago, we, had our last service here at Harvest. And now we're moving into more marketplace and itinerant ministry, which I'm excited about,
I'm very excited about it.
Really excited about. And the doors have already been opening, for that, as far as speaking engagements, singing engagements. We're at our friend's church the other day, and they invited us up at the very last minute, unannounced, to speak. And just the way that God was speaking through you, man, I mean, I was like, and, it was a bilingual service. And so like she was, prophesying, and the interpreter was prophesying too right after. I was like, look at my girl, and but it's been amazing just to ride this wave. And I'm excited that you are with us in this journey. And now Masters in the Marketplace, people ask the question, well, what is going to be Masters in the Marketplace? Well, it is a community. It's a movement. It really is. It's a movement of kingdom-driven entrepreneurs who want to make an impact in the marketplace God's way, who want to do it with integrity, who want to do it with wisdom, who want to do it with the anointing, who truly understand that God is in them to affect change in the world around them. And so it's going beyond the walls to be and to share the light of Jesus Christ through business, through leadership, through your organization, through education, through government, through, whatever mountain you serve in, letting you know that you can be anointed in that position in the marketplace as you were in a pulpit. I mean, that's my call. My call is to help leaders grow, to help people and leaders actually fulfill their purpose, to discover their purpose, to develop their potential and dominate in their place of leadership. And so that's what Masters in the Marketplace is all about. So we want you to keep it locked here. There's so many wonderful things that are coming down the pike for you. And so I want you to understand that over the next couple of weeks, you can experience and you can expect a couple of things. Number one, you can expect every Monday to get what we're calling Mastery Monday, right? And so my beautiful wife won't be with me every single Monday, but we will have interviews. We'll have interviews with other people. And, I'm bringing to you the best of the best when it comes down to leadership, when it comes down to growing in business, when it comes down to marketing, when it comes down to all the things, how to dominate in your place of leadership here in Masters in the Marketplace. So every Monday, keep it locked. And actually, why don't you do this? Why don't you like, love, and subscribe to the channel right now? Turn on your notifications so that you can be a part of the tribe, okay? So Every Monday is Mastery Monday. You can expect a YouTube video to be up on YouTube, also Facebook, wherever else this is going to be at as well. But also on Wednesdays, I'm getting tongue-tied. I'm so excited. Wednesdays, guess what? Wisdom Wednesdays is coming back with a vengeance, right? And so Wisdom Wednesdays is where I actually go live and you can ask questions and all those different things. But it is a powerful time of me teaching and sharing how to actually grow in the marketplace God's way. It's going to be absolutely powerful. And so also, you and I have the opportunity to connect in 2026. Now, goals are extremely important, right?
Yes,
They're powerful, they're extremely important. And if you and I don't have a goal, if you and I don't have a specific focus, we'll end up just experimenting with life. And so I'm putting together something called Goal Getters. We do it every single year. And it's a time where you and I can come together where I can help you to get your goals in order for 2026. Most people don't have the breakthrough that they want because they don't have clear-cut goals and a clear-cut system to actually obtain the goal. And here's what I've learned about goals is that the purpose of a goal is not to obtain a result, but it is to teach you how to become appropriate in the moment. You're going to get, I can't give it all to you right now, but I really want to. But we have early bird VIP is $147 for those who want to go into the general. It's only going to be $47. Let me read what you're actually going to get. You're going to get a crystal clear 2026 goal blueprint. This is how we actually map out our actual goals and how we actually plan our year. How do you do multiple business conferences? How do you do multiple, in your case, the fashion design and as well as the fashion shows that we've done over the years? How do you plan for that? How do you organize? How do you do an album? How do you write a book? How do you, do an audio book? All of those different things. I'm going to teach you, and we're going to teach you how to do this. We're going to have faith-based strategic planning tools, teaching you how to strategically plan. One of my mentors long ago used to say this: you're going to live in your future anyway. You might as well live in the future that you plan. Most people do not plan. They just live. They just fly by the seat of their pants. And so you got to be a part of this. Also, we're going to give you a breakthrough session on destroying limiting beliefs so you don't carry them into the new year. How to break that mindset, that limiting mindset, how to break the poverty mindset, how to break, just barely getting along. You're gonna break those things. And then also beyond just breaking limiting beliefs, not just in poverty, but even in success. There are certain people that's like, okay, this is as far as that I can go. Some people are okay just being at 7 figures. What if God wants you to be at 10 figures? What if God wants you to be at 11? The reality is there's so much that you and I can do, okay? A personal and a business audit to identify what needs to end and what must expand. Also a custom 12-month revenue roadmap, a leadership acceleration plan. There's so many different things. And guess what? That's just in the general, but the VIP, oh my goodness. Okay, you also get private breakout with myself as well as some special guests who are actually going to be on with us. You're going to Q&A hot seat coaching. So we're going to be able to take your business and kind of tell you exactly what you need to do, or your plan. So it tells you exactly what you need to do. Strategic templates pack, full planning system for the whole year, lifetime access to the event replay. And then also there are some freebies that we're going to give you that we can't give away right now, but there's going to be some awesome things. And so I want you to be a part of the Goal Getters Club, yes. Goal Getters 2026. That is going to be on December the 13th. And the early bird pricing ends November 30th. So get your tickets right now. So VIP is $147 right now, and general is $47. So get it right now. It's going to end very, very soon. Also, tell us a little bit about your CD, babe.
Out of the Ashes. Okay, I get this question sometimes, or a person will say, "Oh, I listened to your single." This is an actual full album. I have a song called Out of the Ashes. So we have the Out of the Ashes song. But then the album is also called Out of the Ashes, where we have 10 songs. So I have CDs for those who like to collect CDs, who still have a CD player, like you like to listen to your music that way, or you just like to collect CDs. And then also I'm on all streaming platforms. I also have 2 music videos, one for Out of the Ashes, the song, and then also for Clean Hands. And so this project was birthed out of myself rising up out of ashes within my own life. So it was my own prophetic declaration over my life. And then it's also a prophetic declaration over everybody who listens. So take the journey, get the CD, or you could just go to your favorite streaming platform or purchase it on, if you really want to support me, you can purchase
it.
Yes, purchase on iTunes before streaming, but then also stream, okay? Or you could hit me up for your very own CD. I will mail it to you.
Yes.
Or I will, see you in person and give it to you in person. Okay?
And so these songs on here, Fearfully and Wonderfully Made, that's a hit. I Need You, Clean Hands, which is my favorite song on this particular Clean Hands, acoustic version. Man, talk about, move over, Lauryn Hill. Here comes Nova Scott, right? I Surrender, I Am Healed, Shelter, Clean Hands, reggae version, Blessed, Love, and then Out of the Ashes. You got to get this. This is a powerful CD. So many people play it over and over and over, and many people have been healed, delivered, set free, and encouraged as a result of this CD right here, okay? So do that. Also, get your hands on Faith, Friendships, and Business. It's a collective book that I wrote with my friends Tiana Sanchez, Arnita Champion, Dr. Katie Chu, Lacrice Coleman, Brittany Emery, Mark Mays, Desiree Sadler, and of course mine name is on here as well. I wrote a chapter in it called I Forgive You, But I Still Have Trauma. And so you want to make sure that you get that. It's the last one, but everybody's stories are in here and they are amazing. This right here is going to take your business and your faith and your friendships to the next level. We also came out with an audio book on it too, so you can get that on Audible as well. So make sure that you pick that up. So this is what I need you to do. I need you to follow us on all of our socials. I need you to follow me, official Torrian Scott.
This is on Instagram, by the way.
This is on Instagram. So official Torrian Scott. I need you to follow Nova of Nova Marie Music.
Yes.
Follow the podcast, Masters in the Marketplace. And here's what I need you to do. I want you to join the global community of Masters in the Marketplace. You're not called to build alone. You're called to build in community. If you're a faith-driven entrepreneur, if you're a purpose-driven entrepreneur, you're kingdom-driven, purpose-driven person, leader. You don't even have to be an entrepreneur. You can be an executive. You can be a business owner. You can be someone in the marketplace, and you want to make an impact. This is the podcast for you. But this is what I need you to do. Here's the last thing that I'm going to ask you to do. Then we're going to sign out, okay? We're going to sign off, all right? I need you to help us meet our impossible goal, all right? Our impossible goal is 1 million subscribers in 1 year.
Yes.
1 million subscribers in 1 year on YouTube, okay? That's where we want to go. We want to provide so much crazy, ridiculous, you can't hardly believe it, value that people are growing and people are sharing. And so this is what I need you to do. I need you to share this. I need you to like, love, and share this. Sharing is caring. Liking is the right thing.
Yes,
but I need you to subscribe to the channel, okay? Also need you to put on your notifications. That way you know when we go live. That way when you know when a new video is uploaded. Make sure that you share our shorts, the things that we're going to be sharing on Instagram, on YouTube. Share it with global people. Share it with the global community, because we know that there's so many people out there that need to know that God wants them to be successful, and he's counting on them to be successful. And you're just as important. Listen, the boardroom is just as important as the prayer room, okay? Somebody needs to know that you are in the marketplace, strategically placed, like a Joseph, like a Daniel, like a Esther.
Yes.
You're a person that is strategically placed in the marketplace to help influence nations, to help influence industries, to help influence people's communities. I'm telling you, you cannot sleep on what we're going to be bringing forth here with Masters in the Marketplace. So this has been Torrian Scott and my beautiful wife,
Nova.
We are signing off next week. You do not want to miss out on what we have to share with you. I got a special guest that's going to be coming on, and you cannot wait. I cannot wait for you to hear his story. We'll talk to you soon. God bless.